Hello, today I wanted to show you my PETSCII drawing program. It's called petshop. You can see its main screen here, its only screen really. So it's a drawing program. I can draw something with F. But why does it draw that? Well, it's what's in my buffer. When I press F, the buffer is copied to the selection. I can enter the palette with return, and I'll put something else in my buffer. Normally you press Y or space to put something in your buffer, but in the palette view you can press return again and it'll close the palette and put that in the buffer. So I can draw whatever was under my cursor in the palette with F. And the cursor is really a selection. I can grow the selection with shift. By the way, I'm using HJKL for directional keys. That's possible, but you can also use the arrow keys if you prefer that. I don't, but I know many people do. You can grow the selection, and if you draw something that's smaller than the selection onto the screen with F, it'll get repeated across the selection. So in this case I had this one single character and I drew it over this area. It got repeated. I can of course do that for more complex patterns. So let's put my selection here into the buffer with Y or space, by the way. Space also works. And I'll draw it all over here. That works too. I don't like any of this, so I'll press undo. That's U. If I did like something of that, if I realize that after the fact, I can press capital U. So U and capital U. Undo works. There are 20 undo stages. You could have significantly more, I think, but it has a small rendering cost to have undo pages because of how the stages of the pictures are rendered. So I thought 20 is plenty and should be enough for anyone. So I want to draw a heart now. I want it to be a different color though. I want a red heart. If I press F now, I'll just replace the heart with the character that I used here, which is a block character. It was a red block character, but it was a character. So I'll undo that. I wanted a red heart. I can press S for that. It will draw the contents of the buffer to the cursor selection. But only the color data, not the character data. And correspondingly you can press D to paste only the character data without the color data. So I want to draw something more advanced now, something terrifying. Maybe a dinosaur. Those are. You can see while drawing I'm really using these commands quite quickly. Here's a new command. I'm pressing X. That flips the selection horizontally, and it works for larger selections as well. And capital X will switch vertically. So this is a good basis for a dinosaur. Nice. But I've sort of drawn it in the lower corner here. What I can do then, if that's not what I wanted, maybe I want to draw the whole body of this dinosaur thing. What I can do then is select the whole image. Let's get rid of the hearts first. I can select the whole image, and while holding Control, I can move this around, and not just move it, I can rotate it. And it works also for a smaller selection, so I can let's say I want to rotate his mouth. That works too. So now we have sort of a dinosaur. Whoops. It really is quite nice to have this copying command so quickly available. You can also copy with space. I'm not sure I mentioned that. You can invert the selection. That doesn't look great, but it works. What invert does is take the selection, and for each character, so let's say J, it'll pick the inverted version of that character. I can barely see the dinosaur in the blue background. Maybe I'm colorblind. Let's press B. That changes the background color to the color of whatever's below the cursor. And capital B will change the border color. So now I got my dinosaur spelled out here. It's going to say something. To insert letter, I can press I, followed by the letter I want to insert. So I wanted to say R. That's sort of a tedious way to write, but I never intended for this to be a writing program, so I made it the smallest possible. It's the smallest possible implementation, I think, or simplest. Yes, you may know there are two character sets on the Commodore 64. This is the uppercase and symbolic character set. You can press capital C and it will switch to the lowercase and uppercase character set, which is more useful for writing. And it sort of looks cool as well. But it's not what I drew, so I don't want it. So now I'm happy with this picture. Now I press tab to swap the scratch page with the main page. You can do that, and you can use the scratch page to store sort of stamps if you want. Make it easier to yeah, well, it makes it easier to draw. You can see the text here was also flipped because there's no corresponding mirrored R. The character isn't changed, but for characters that have corresponding mirrored images, flipping will use those. Alright, I'm quite happy with this now. They're kissing, so maybe a heart is in order for a few of them. Maybe a furrowed eyebrow. I'll just draw the character here. And here as well, and I'll flip that. Yes, that looks nice. I'll save this as Dino. I pressed F1 to save. So there I have it. Now I want to show you image. You can see it's a 4003 byte file, and that's just enough to contain the background color, border color, the character case, the character data for the buffer, or I mean the main screen and the scratch pad, and the color data for the main screen and the scratch pad. I've documented this format in the README, but it's really simple. You can see here. But now I can't really do much with this image except load it in the editor. But I created a small stub, a program stub, for creating a runnable program. So you can concatenate that. This should be in the distribution pet stub. I'll concatenate that with dino.pet, and I'll save it as dino.prg. And I'll open that in my emulator. Ta-da! It works. Well, the colors are kind of different in Vice compared to my program, which is funny. I copied the colors from Vice. The colors I use are from Vice, but I think there may be multiple palettes in Vice, and my version is using, or the configuration I'm using is using a different palette. Oh, when you see caps lock in the key display, that's just that's control. I have control mapped to caps lock. I can show some older pictures. Let's see, let's take data 7. I'm not sure why I named them that way. It's sort of an optical illusion. These lines are actually straight, and your brain is tricking you. From here I can load with F2. So you don't have to exit the program to open a new image, or I mean open a saved image. You can also look in the scratch pads of your old pictures. You kind of forget what's in them, so it's fun to see. I had sort of a border version of this picture in there. That's nice. Looks like chocolate. Well, I think I've shown most of what I wanted to show. So goodbye, and thank you for watching.